Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on IC in Christ Radio. We're your source for news and entertainment. You can also find us on television, a couple different ways. Channel 182 on Charter Communications, as well as Abundance TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, from 1 to 3 p.m. as we get some information to you. I'm talking about real important information, some stuff you can take home and talk about during the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays with all of your family. Speaking of which, I have Chuck and Mary Lynn Bailey with me, and they are from Alabama Fairtax. And I'm in. What do we do?
We're in good shape. Well, the latest is we keep contacting people and talk to them about the bill. And our latest contact is John Wall, the chairman of Alabama GOP. Mm-hmm. And we're supposed to get with him and spin him up, because when we talked to him Saturday, he said, "Oh, I love the fair tax." And I said, "Okay, we've got a state bill. What are we going to do about that?" Mm-hmm. And so we gave him the 2-pager, and he's supposed to be looking that over and studying it. And then we're going to give him a test here in the next day or two and see if we can't get him to start helping us push this thing across the finish line. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, we've been in contact with Senator Orr, who is he's supposed to have the fiscal office going over the numbers and looking at everything. They've been involved in this thing since about 2016 or so. Mm-hmm. And so the guys in that fiscal office know what's going on, and they ought to be able to tell the guy whether it's going to work or not. And besides, if you got $3.2 billion extra laying around, I don't think it's going to be a problem to switch over to a different tax system right now.
I don't think it'd be hard at all.
No.
And I would think anybody in office right now who would love to be a hero at this point, whether you're Democrat, Republican, or whatever you are, doesn't matter. I would think anybody would take the ball and run with this.
That's what you would think, but then they each have their own little agendas. Mm-hmm. Agendas. Anyway, each one of them has got his eye on a certain prize, and sometimes Alabama Economic Freedom Act is not part of that prize. So what we've got to do is get with folks like John, who have an influence over the whole state. Mm-hmm. He just led the whole state to being totally Republican. So you think he'd have some hitting power at the state level. So mm-hmm. We're going to see if we can get him interested enough to start actually talking about this. Now we know that Nathaniel Ledbetter is most likely going to be the next speaker. He has been selected by the caucus. It just has to be voted on in the House when they go into session in March. So it's more or less a slam dunk unless something happens between now and then. And so he is supposed to. He promised us that he was going to do a study like the budget task force to determine if this bill is going to do what we claim it's going to do, and that would be a great thing if he would do that. Mm-hmm.
Now we're in better place than we were a couple years ago when COVID hit.
Yes, the thing is, we can explain for folks what the prebate is a little later, but when we first started talking to him about this, we were thinking, in order to do the prebate, they'd have to have a chunk of money laying around to start that prebate at the beginning of the fiscal year, which would be January of the first year of the tax. And so I'm thinking that 3.2 billion ought to cover that, and so they wouldn't have to go through coming up with a pile of money to do that. That's already there. So
the thing that concerns me, though, is that we just had an election. It'll be another 2 years before we have another one, and there is a constitutional amendment, a state constitutional amendment that has to be passed. So that's going to be 2 years before we can even vote on it. Yeah. And we were talking to one of the legislators, and he said that we needed to have some polling done. And all of these things cost money. We've had the rate study done 3 times, and that's a chunk of change every time. So now we're going to have it done again, because the last time we had it done was before COVID hit.
Well, I'm pushing the fact that they've got money available, that this rate study is nothing compared to what they're going to gain off of having this bill enacted into law.
Well, the state's never paid for it. We've always had to raise
Yeah.
the money to pay for this. And then this idea of having polling done was thrown at us just about a month or so ago. And that's another, we're going to have to raise money for that. And, money is getting tight for people now. So
Everybody wants some of your money.
yeah,
Everybody.
yeah. But, we have to have, what we were told was that the legislature, they need to have a push, and polling would do it if we could get heavy polling, or if people would just call in and say, we want it. In fact, I was kind of surprised when we talked to John Wall. He said, "Oh, I just love the fair tax," and I thought, well, okay.
Well,
Let's do something about it. But there's still a lot of people who don't know what the fair tax is, and that's actually another thing that costs money, because we have to have the forms printed up, and they change every year. The prebate actually changes every year depending on.
Let's talk about what fair tax is, because we have a lot of new listeners and watchers right now with the addition of television and through Abundant TV. So what is fair tax, and does it differ from state to state?
Well, let's start off with, there is a national fair tax bill that's been introduced in the Congress of the U.S. Since 1999. Every 2 years, we've had a sponsor of that bill, and it's been re-upped. Although it gets the initial read in the House, and it goes to the Ways and Means Committee, and then it sits there and dies every session. So what we need is across the U.S., we need people getting their senators and Congresses, their senators and representatives involved in this, getting this thing passed. And now at the state level, each state has to come up with a bill. And so Georgia and Alabama have a bill that's based on the fair tax bill, and they're similar, but they have the nuances of the state government in there. But like both the Georgia and the Alabama bill will have a prebate in there, and the prebate is just the new way of doing the standard deduction, and it'll be received before you have to spend the tax each month, rather than waiting a year to figure out whether the government's going to let you have a little of your money back or not. But it's a total replacement. Total replacement. Listen to me. It's a total replacement at the federal level of all income taxes, and at the state level, all income and sales taxes, because it's going to be a new consumption tax system that is only collected once on new products and services that you purchase for personal use at retail. And the retailer is going to be reimbursed to collect the tax. And so the way the thing will work at the state level is the state runs the deal. They'll have a consumption tax office that works with retailers around in Alabama. Retailers will collect that tax, and depending on the size of their business will depend on how much money they rake in each month. So that'll depend on the reporting period. And that reporting period will be taken care of by a single form that says, I made so much money, here's the tax on it. Here's your cut. By the way, I'm taking my cut out for collecting it. And that's going to be the tax system. It's not going to be all of us involved scraping up receipts out of trash cans and all that stuff, try to figure out how much money that they owe us back. And all of that system goes away, and you go buy something, you pay your tax, and that tax is inclusive in the price of what you buy. You're done with your state or federal tax at that point. No more forms to fill out for you. Only the retailer, and they get paid to do it.
Yeah, and when you say it's inclusive, it means that if whatever the price is marked on the object that you buy, It's a lamp that costs $100. You pay $100 for it. There's no additional tax added at the register.
It's included. It says inclusive tax.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. And no one pays taxes up to the poverty level. And that's both at the state and the federal. At the federal level, the income taxes that are collected are Social Security, Medicare, and the income tax, the federal
Individual
income tax.
individual and corporate.
Right. And so, I heard, is it Joaquin Jeffries is the new
He's going to be the new minority leader.
minority leader, was saying that the Republicans want to get rid of Social Security. Well, that's actually not true, but Social Security would be paid at every level. I mean, every time someone buys something, the Social Security would be paid. And actually, it'd be funded better that way than it is now, because we have fewer people working. And
that's the national fair tax takes care of the Social Security and Medicare. The state taxes will have to take care of Medicaid. So we each have our own little crosses to bear.
Yeah, that's true. And I wanted to point this out. This is the only time you ever see me smiling about the word tax. I mean, when we're talking about fair tax.
Yeah.
And I want the viewers, I really, really want you to get into this, viewers. And you are the smartest ones. We know anybody who watches this show right here, you're smart. You really are. So you need to take this to the folks who are running for office, people who are already in the office, and tell them, inundate them, just pastor them to death until they look at it. I mean, they'll just look at it.
Well, if you think about it, where is the future speaker from? He's from the Rainsville area. And I'll bet that's in your radio listening.
It is right in here. It most certainly is.
And I'll bet you there are a bunch of people out there that they just would get up off their seats and go pick up the telephone or reach over and grab your cell, whichever is best. Give that dude a call and say, hey, you need to get this on the docket this year and get that Alabama Economic Freedom Act passed. That's what it's going to take.
Let me ask you a question. This pertains to sending faxes. And this is something I know. I've heard this from people who are in office. They always hear the fax go off. Now, I know in the state of Alabama, we still have faxes.
Do we?
So if they heard it over and over and over again by all of us, the citizens, they'll have to take notice.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out this is an explanation of the Alabama Economic Freedom Act. It's on our website, alfairtax.org. This is the explanation right here. It tells exactly what that bill does. And on the back, it tells what your prebate would be. And the prebate is a refund of taxes up to the poverty level for whatever your family circumstances are. It has nothing to do with how much money you make. And that's one thing that the federal government wants to know everything about you. John Linder, who was the original author of the bill, said the government wants to know more about you than you're willing to tell your children.
And that's
well,
true.
This actually
is
totally anonymous, because whenever you buy something, you pay the tax. It's done. You don't ever have to go back and revisit that tax. You don't ever get audited for it. It's just
the only person that gets audited is a retailer, and he's in the business to take care of that. So
yeah.
But then the retailer is free. I mean, I can see freedom for everybody. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know it is. We used to own a retail establishment, and we actually had eight cell phone stores in the state of Alabama. And I'm gonna tell you, we spent most of our time, instead of growing the business, it was just ridiculous. We just didn't have time to run it. It ran us, but it was because of the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's another thing too. People don't realize how much money is spent to collect these stupid taxes. And what this bill does at the state and the federal level is it gets rid of the income tax. And the state gets rid of the income tax division after 3 years. You gotta slowly wind down and get out of all of the income tax has to be collected, but they're given 3 years to do that. If they're not done by then, they're done.
Mhm.
and they get rid of all the income tax records to boot, because you don't want that stuff floating around after they close their office.
Mhm.
And then at the federal level, it's the same thing. The IRS is phased out after three years, and they have to get rid of all of their uh, income tax records, with the exception of Social Security and Medicare, because you have to know who's qualified to collect until they get under the new system for
Mhm.
keeping up with that data. But there's a lot of money involved with that. There was, they just hired 87,000 new.
They want to. They haven't done it.
Well,
yet.
they haven't done it, but they've got 87,000. There's a bill that says they could hire 87,000 if somebody appropriates the money,
Mhm.
and that's the key to keeping that from happening. Is the new house needs not to appropriate that money.
Mhm.
But the point is, right now they've got 80,000 people working there, and their budget every year is 110 million bucks.
Mhm.
We could have funded the Ukraine war for what they cost for the IRS.
Mhm.
Not that I want to do that, but
Let me ask you another question, and this is a huge issue we have all over the world, and that's identity theft.
Mhm.
So would this actually help the fight? I mean, because identity theft, your information, your social security is on every single thing. And
Yeah.
so would this
Yeah.
actually help prevent so much identity theft?
There's no information collected when you pay
Right.
the tax. When you pay the tax, it's just like when you pay sales tax now. And also another thing we didn't mention was that at the state level, it also includes, it's not just the income tax, it's also all sales taxes. They're all combined into one. And because we're collecting taxes on all new goods and services, and the services are new right now, services are not taxed, but because of that, and because it taxes everyone in this state, including illegal aliens and prostitutes and drug runners and all of that, who don't pay taxes right now.
Now, wait a minute. A lot of people want to know, how do you do that? How you get the paperwork on it? There's no paperwork. When they buy new stuff or pay for services, they're paying the tax now, and they're not paying any income tax
No.
now. So
And-
they're getting to pay tax once we go into this program.
And the tax actually, here in Huntsville, we figured out the tax is actually less than what the sales tax is in Huntsville.
Yeah.
So you still pay what looks like a sales tax, except it's an inclusive tax, which means it's not added at the register. But the rate for the state, the city, and the county for Huntsville is less than 7%.
Mhm.
And right now in Huntsville, it's 9%. So
9.5%.
9.5%.
She keeps forgetting that half. She forgets that.
But and then plus no one pays taxes up to the poverty level. And we're always asking about the grocery tax too. That you do pay taxes on everything you buy at retail, but you can a single person can buy up to $1,000 of groceries tax free, because you are refunded that tax before you ever spend it. And I think for a family of four, it's like, was it 4,000? Yeah, I think it's around $4,000 a month. It actually.
No, it's not that much.
It's not that much.
Two children.
There's a table that you have to look at.
Well, you don't pay any tax up to $36,620. Put it that way.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So you can buy $36,620 worth of groceries over a year, and it won't cost you anything in taxes.
Yeah, and I don't know how many
I don't
people
think
do that, but
people,
unless
I don't know, unless you're Bill Gates, and that's your bill for taking somebody out to dinner tomorrow night. I don't know.
Really. Or the Duggars, 20
Yeah.
kids and counting.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? Folks, let's go ahead and cut to a commercial break. We're going to go into one every 20 minutes. And so we can pay for this program. So what I'll do is I'll take you guys off of the video, and then when we come back in, I'll put you back in. So let's go ahead and cut to the break. We're going to be right back in just a few minutes. Y'all hang in there, okay?
We're about to make your life just a little bit easier. Join Tony and April at Tony's Pizza and Subs in Center and Cedar Bluff, Alabama. We're cooking up some hot and delicious pizzas, and we'd like to bake one for you. We are home-owned, not a chain, and our pizzas are fresh, homemade with our dough made fresh daily. We have a full menu including fresh, never frozen wings, salad bars, suds sandwiches, and much more. In Center, we have a private dining area for birthday parties, club meetings, and other events. We'll be waiting for you at 1820 East Bypass in Center, and in Cedar Bluff, 3812 Alabama Highway 9. For your convenience, you can call in your order at our Center location, 256-92 Pizza, or Cedar Bluff, 256-557-8651. And we enjoy making your life easier. Shepherd's Cove Thrift Shop, located on Highway 431 in Albertville, is a large store that is restocked weekly with new and gently used items donated by our community. When you shop at the Hospice of Marshall County Thrift Shop, you not only get great deals, but you also help neighbors and friends receive the end-of-life services they desperately need. Hospice of Marshall County is a non-profit United Way agency, and we depend on the generosity of those in our community to continue providing expert care to all, regardless of ability to pay. We accept donations during regular business hours 9 to 5 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. For more information about our community events and volunteer opportunities, please call 256-582-3325. Thank you for your support of Shepherd's Cove. So who likes ribs, chicken livers, hamburger steak, and fried chicken? These are just some of the things you'll find at the bars like the Cattle Stampede in Fort Payne. And dessert is to die for. Cookies, cakes, all kinds of cobblers. And don't forget to ask for your ice cream. Not to mention the steak bar, seafood bar, barbecue bar, salad bar, and dessert bar. Plus, it's all you can eat. Come hungry and bring your friends. Lunch is Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the price is only $8.99. We're also open on Saturday and Sunday, just in time to get out of church. We're looking forward to serving you, and a great big thank you for all your business. At Miracle Pottery, each pottery item is hand-turned from durable stoneware, clay body, and non-scratch high-fire glaze. Dishwasher oven and microwave safe, our handcrafted dinnerware and bakeware will last a lifetime, staying just as beautiful as the day it was born. Each pot is signed first with a cross in thanks to our Lord, our name, and then the year. We say a tiny prayer for the receiver of each piece that they receive abundant blessings in their lives. It's not just about pottery. We're located in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains near Mentone and Valley Head, Alabama. Miracle Pottery is nestled at the base of the hills at 7871 Alabama Highway 117 between Gadsden, Alabama and Chattanooga, Tennessee. Please go to our website, miraclepottery.com, for more info about our other getaway cottages. You can also call us at 256-635-6863. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant.
We're back. My name is Donna Thiesel, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on IC Radio in the town of Geraldine, Alabama, your source for news and entertainment. You know, you can also find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications. You can also find us on Abundant TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. We are with Chuck and Mary Lynn Bailey, waiting on them to come right back in, and they will be with us again in just a few seconds. But we're talking about Alabama fair tax and fair tax itself. So you can go to the website alfairtax.org. That's alfairtax.org and find all kinds of valuable information about this. The first time I heard about fair tax it's been several years ago when I heard about it. And so I don't know, I was a little skeptical, but then after I sat and I really listened to what it was all about, I was pretty much well into it. I was so because I'm a business owner, and any way you can help save my business some money and save me a lot of headaches and that kind of thing. Well, I'm going to listen to it, and I'm pretty sure you will too. You need to hound your legislatures. You need to everybody in office, everybody you have voted for. You need to get with everybody and going ahead and tell them what your thoughts are. I'll see if I can find a fax number for you to call. If that could help you out as well. So anyway, we're waiting on them to come back in, but this is just absolutely an awesome thing. They were talking about the prebate, and so the best way I know that, and I think they did a really super job explaining how the prebate works, but I think it's something that's it really encourages folks. Sometimes if you're an American citizen, you feel just a little bit left out. And so this is something that's actually good for the United States citizens.
So let me back in.
So go ahead and take a listen. We're about to
Hello.
come back now, so we'll ask them to start the video. Guys, you need to start your video so we can go ahead and get you back in.
It's not working.
It's not working.
And you should see something pop up that says start video. You
I
may
did. It's done it several times and it won't come back up.
Oh, okay. Well, let me see what I can do. I'm sending the invite to you one more time. And just look somewhere down on your screen if you're on your computer.
It didn't work again.
Okay, look down on the bottom of your computer. It could be at the top, but you'll see something that says mute. You'll have to put your mouse down under it. You'll see something that says mute and something that may say start video. It's a little video camera. So you need to click on that.
It's not working.
It will not work for us.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll keep trying, but let's go ahead and talk.
Okay.
And so we were talking about just right before you guys came in about how sometimes you feel a little bit left out when you're an American citizen. You see all this money going everywhere else, and it feels as if we don't get the breaks everybody else gets. So if you don't mind, explain that to us. Why would it help the American citizen?
Well, it would help the American citizen in one fantastic way, and that would be, since you're getting rid of all the corporate taxes, which people don't understand that most times that they're actually paying all those corporate taxes when they buy a product or pay for a service. All of that money goes into your pocketbook so that you can buy the stuff that you want rather than being kind of guided by the government placing taxes on you here and exempting you there. And they're using it for behavior control. So the money is in your pocketbook. You decide what you want to buy, and what that does is it helps people decide what kind of businesses they want to start. And the second part of that is, if corporations have no income tax and they don't have to worry about collecting the Social Security because the retailer is going to collect that after you get started, they will come back to the U.S. in droves, and that's been proven by the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, because as soon as President Trump got the tax down to 15.5% for the first year and then 21 for the next years, billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars came back to the United States. Apple alone brought $225 billion back to the States. So that and the jobs if you bring the money back to the states, that's where the jobs are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll have more and better jobs too. You won't have these paperwork jobs filling out orders for stuff that's going to be bought in China and shipped into the U.S. So you bring manufacturing back big time.
Yeah, another thing too, at the federal level, Social Security is always used as a tool to scare people. That scare people that are on Social Security that they're going to lose it. Well, the actual fact is that it could happen, not right now, but it is basically bankrupt. They're having to print money in order to fund it. With the fair tax, it would be funded every time you buy something. Every time anybody buys something at the retail level, it would be funded, and that's something that we haven't had. There aren't as many people working now as there were just before pre-COVID. So, that, and the people who are actually working, the laborers, just making funny faces.
What she's trying to say is that 35% of the taxes goes into Social Security and Medicare, because 35% of the tax that gets collected now under income tax it pays for the Social Security and Medicare.
It's a better funding source than what we've got right now.
But the key is you go from about 142 million people paying into the income tax, filling out those forms, scraping up all those receipts and keeping them in a shoebox and all that. All that stuff goes away, and everybody that buys something pays the tax. Everybody that spends money in the United States, I'm talking about everybody. When you got visitors from foreign countries, they're going to pay it, and they have no way to get the rebate because they're not eligible for it. Mm-hmm. And you got people here on visas to work, they're going to pay the tax. So you take your base and you just about triple it, and that's the way this system. The reason why this system works is because you're taking the load off of 148 or so million people paying income taxes, and you spread it amongst everybody.
And
same at the state level.
The 140 million is an old number too.
No, it's about 140.
I don't think there are quite as many people working now as there were before.
No, it was up to 162 under Trump, and it's dropped back a couple of million, but it's around 140, 150 million.
And it's also used as a gimmick too. Sometimes I know when Obama was president, he said, okay, we're not going to charge the Social Security for the employee. It'll just come from the employer. Well, that's a gimmick, because the employee is paying all of it. It's part of their funding.
It's part of their paycheck. They sign on the dotted line to go to work for a given amount of money, and part of that amount of money is a part of the Social Security that the employer pays.
Yeah,
so
it sounds like a good deal, but it's not. You're not getting a present every time your employer pays half of Social Security. So this time, it was used as a tool, and also it's Social Security has been used to fund a whole bunch of other things besides the Social Security insurance, and that's another reason why there's not as much money. Right. As there was at one time. There was a surplus coming in, and that money was put in the federal fund, or the general fund rather, and now there's not as much money coming in as is going out. So with the fair tax, that money will be a constant. Every time someone buys something, it will be paid.
Well, let me ask you another question. This country is in trouble when it comes to the deficit. Do we even know how much in debt this country is at this point?
Well, they know how much the debt is, but they have no clue how to fix it.
Would this fix it?
It'd be a great start, because remember, where do you get how are you going to fix that deficit? You're going to have somebody paying money into the system to pay for it, and the only way to do that is to bring a lot of manufacturing and everything back to the United States, put a lot of people to work, so that a lot of people will go out and buy stuff and pay this new consumption tax to fund the government. I don't think they'll ever get it. You can't spend money to save money, put it that way.
Yeah, and this is not a spending bill. This is a funding bill. That's right. It brings in the same amount of money as the income tax collects, but it's done in a much more equitable way. You don't have to sign your life away to pay your tax or to get your refund. How many times have you, every April 15th, you have to go and justify getting back the overpayment that
Right.
the loan that you gave to the government, you have to justify getting it back. And it's interest free. So the government pays no interest on the money that it borrows from you.
But don't fail to pay for a day.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Because it's not
don't do
interest free.
that.
It's not interest free in the opposite direction.
That's right. And also the income tax law is stated in such a way that you are guilty until proven innocent. That's the only, in the United States, you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. With the income tax, it's just the opposite. So
And with the fair tax, you are innocent until proven guilty. And if they do you wrong, they've got to pay. So
well, actually,
and same at the state level, you're innocent until proven guilty, and only retailers that have that kind of problem. So
yeah, it's for the individual. There, once you pay your tax, there's no way to come back on you to get you to pay more.
Well, let me ask you another question. And this is about the value of the dollar. I mean, what is it worth now? I mean, would this help increase the value? Would we see the value of the dollar go back up any at all?
Probably not going to affect it. Right now we have fiat money that is, basically I keep saying, instead of the Fed printing all that money, why not just give everybody a printing press and let everybody print their own money?
Why not?
That's how much it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
But there are ways to do that. We could go back on a gold standard. One thing we have to be very careful of, though, is the banks are trying to push now a central bank digital currency, which was the scariest thing I can think of, because China has it right now, and the United States and the Fed want to do one better. But what it'll do is determine, they will know every time you spend money, it goes through the federal government, and they can determine whether or not it's justified that you spend that money. Or sometimes if you have money in the bank and you don't spend enough, they can confiscate the extra. So they can set a amount of money that you should spend each month. And there's no way to take it out of the bank. It's all in a big computer.
This is what's so puzzling to me is people who buy gold and they buy a certificate. They don't buy the actual gold.
Right.
Right. That's scary to me. I mean,
it is. Yeah,
because that's still on paper.
Yeah, that's ETFs, and that's one way to manipulate the price of gold.
Right.
But those ETFs sell a lot more gold to the people. As you buy a portion of what they have, they do not back up what they have. In other words, if everyone made a run on the ETFs, there would be a lot of people who would not have the gold. So
it kind of sounds like a Ponzi scheme.
It is a Ponzi scheme.
It does to me too. Yeah, if we did that for a living, we'd be in prison.
Yeah.
That's right. So, and that's one reason too why not just the federal government, the global government, global currency, so on. They don't like the Bitcoin because there is an anonymity involved in it, and they don't like that. They want all of your data.
They like the centralized digital because even boring down further than Mary Lynn bored down, that if you drive too much, you are contributing too much fossil fuel effluence to the climate. So you're gonna have to stop using your car for a month.
Well, what's that going to do to somebody who maybe has a sales position and they are on the road all the time? What would that do to their career?
Depends on what the government thinks that they should be doing.
Yeah, the government will make all decisions for you.
They will be making decisions. You will not.
It's like Klaus Schwab says, you will own nothing, but you'll be happy. So, and we are so close to getting there, and it's, as a people, we have to rise up against that central bank digital currency. CBDC is what it's.
Just say no.
Yeah, just say no. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm real good at that. I am. So Folks, we're going to have to go into another commercial break. Time is flying. We'll be right back in just a few minutes, so y'all hang in there, okay? We shall be right back.
I don't know what to do about that.
Me either. I guess we could
I would
re-enter.
need, did you just turn it on? I mean, is it
No,
rebooted and
no.
everything?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on IC Radio. And we are actually talking to you from the town of Geraldine, Alabama. Thank you so much for listening to us every day, Monday through Friday, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. Chuck and Mary Lynn Bailey are with Alabama Fair Tax, and they are back, and we just never have enough time with them. Hey, guys, can you hear me? Are you back?
Yes, ma'am. Yep, we're here.
Still no video.
No video.
Oh, yeah, it's got to be in there somewhere. You're just not
Yeah.
seeing it.
No, you have it comes up and we click on it and then it doesn't do anything.
We've pushed all the buttons and nothing's helped.
That's okay. We'll get it worked out next time.
Yeah.
So we still have a few minutes left in this segment, and I appreciate you guys being with us. And we also appreciate our awesome sponsors They are the absolute best in the world. So we appreciate you also shopping with these sponsors as well. And the one I didn't mention was My Pillow Guy. And I'm going to tell you, I think My Pillow Guy would absolutely love Fair Tax.
Well, that's good. We're happy to hear that.
Yeah. So if you're a business person, I guarantee you'd like it. But not only that, if you're a citizen of the United States, I think you'd love this.
Yeah, but what a business person, a good business person ought to do is just sit down and go through this little thought process saying, how would it be different if I get rid of all this income tax, sales tax stuff as it stands today? And if I'm just a business and I'm making stuff to hand over to another business to make their product, well, then I'm not going to have to fool with this tax system because I'm not going to be taxed. I'm going to be liable for audits and everything to make sure that I'm not required to pay the tax, but that'll be about it. And the only people that are going to pay the tax is whenever you buy something new or a service, and then the person that's going to collect that tax and pay for it is the retailer. And in the state of Alabama, out of about 362 or so, the last I counted, businesses, only about 65,000 of them were retailers. So you can see how the collection problem goes down from 100 in the state of Alabama, 2 million plus people paying their income taxes to 60,000 people sending in this single form every period that's required for them based on the size of their business. This thing is, I cannot for the life of me understand why anybody would not want to take a system like that and go with it and make it work.
Let me ask you a question about some folks who are in office. And one of those, and I would love to know, President Trump is looking at this. Do you know if he's looking at anything like this, or?
He's been briefed on this, but I'm not sure what his thoughts. You know, he's not a kind of person who's going to tell you what he's going to do as far as that's concerned.
Yeah,
he's kind of hard to read. Mike Huckabee is a one of the people he consults with.
Yeah.
Dan Bongino is another one. They both
of them like the fair tax.
They like the fair tax. I'm sure that President Trump knows about it, but whether I don't know.
Now that the Sarah, his daughter, has won her governorship over there in Arkansas, he's going to have a little more time, and I just believe he's going to start working with the Americans for Fair Taxation to do something about this fair tax. We'll see in the months ahead.
well, I thought about that too. And now that Sarah will be the governor, I'm pretty sure they're going to be working really heavy on Arkansas becoming.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that would be good. Personally, I'd love for Alabama to be the first one to get the fair tax.
Yeah.
But at this point, I really don't care as long as there's at least one state that gets it. And if Arkansas beats everybody else, then
So be it.
more power to them.
I'd like for it to be Alabama for one reason and that's the fact that our bill so much mirrors the national bill, and the other bills don't necessarily do that. I know Nebraska's diddling with the prebate because there are folks, I don't understand why, there are folks that say, oh, that prebate's a giveaway program, but they don't understand that that's just a standard deduction. They haven't been able to get their folks in Nebraska convinced of that. But at any rate, I'd like for it to be us because ours more mirrors the national bill, and it would be a good stepping off point if we could get it done. Because if you look around you, anywhere where you see that the corporate taxes are lower, well, whenever people come to talk to our development folks here in the state, they always, one of the first things they ask them is, well, what are you going to give us? How are you going to treat us with taxes and all that kind of stuff? And so we start going in there and fiddling around with the taxes, and we're going to give you this, and we're going to take that. You guys have got to do this for, all of that stuff goes away because you don't have any income tax or sales tax or corporate tax or any of that stuff that they have to worry about. They can come in free as a bird and negotiate on putting their business here rather than worrying about what the tax implications are going to be.
Yeah, well, let me ask you another question. This pertains to, I know we said it starts at the state level. Is there any way it could start at a county level, or am I asking a crazy question? Because
Well,
if you
those,
could just get some of the counties started, that might hit statewide.
I believe that the way it's set up now, that they could possibly do it, but they'd have to get it voted on by the state to okay it.
Yeah.
Whereas with the fair tax, they're in the scheme with the fair tax. They collect the tax, and they will throw in a little bit of money to the prebate even. So, and they'll still they won't have to charge as much tax as they're charging now to keep the counties going at the level that they're working now.
Yeah.
So
If you think about it, we have all of these mechanisms for collecting taxes in the state, and all of them together bring in a certain amount of money that fund different things. You can bring that same amount of money in with a single tax rather than multiple taxes with the multiple administrations and so on.
And 150 exemptions in the income tax and 150 exemptions in the sales tax system.
Yeah,
It's just
and all of those
crazy.
exemptions are favors to different
Specific
groups.
Winners and losers, that's what it amounts to.
Yeah, and the fair tax does away with that. We're all winners with the fair tax. With the income tax, the sales tax, and so on, you have winners and losers that are picked by the politicians, basically. So if we don't let them know what we want,
Politicians egged on by lobbyists.
yeah. So the lobbyists have a big voice. We need to have a bigger voice.
Well, and I can see where the lobbyists would not want this to happen.
No, and politicians, for the most, freedom is a double-edged sword. With politicians, if you're free, then you don't have to do all the things that that they want you to do. So on, they can't coerce you using social pressure to do
what they want you to do.
What they want you to do. Yeah, all that pressure is relieved because when you pay your taxes when you buy something, and that's it. Period. Otherwise, with the income tax, they can say, well, we'll reduce your income taxes if you do such and such. And by the time you get, and if they reduce your taxes, then they're going to have to raise somebody else's taxes to bring in that same amount of money. It's a scheme. And we've been in meetings where politicians were sitting talking with each other, trying to figure out a new way to tax people that people wouldn't see. And
yeah, well, I'd like a list of those people.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I really would. And any law-abiding American citizen would like to have that list as well. But let me ask you a question. This also pertains to people who don't want this to happen. And the question is, well, how are you going to get money? Let's think about this. Let's think of the money that is spent that we have to spend on collecting taxes. You wouldn't have to worry about it, would you? Because I mean, the money is automatically going to be coming in.
Well, I'm not sure about. Oh, you mean under the fair tax?
No, I'm talking about like right now.
Right now,
there are tax collectors. There are tax collectors. They have to be paid to collect taxes, and you may get the money. You can't get blood out of a turnip. So there are some people they'll never collect on.
Right. Well, that's just wasted money, is what that is.
Yeah,
it is.
Both ways.
I'd like to throw something else out here too. The bill that we have right now does not pay for the property tax, but if we increase the tax that we pay at the fair tax by 1 cent, we could actually own our own homes without renting them from the state. And that's a big thing, especially when you're older and living.
Right now. We don't ever really own it right now.
You never own it. The government owns it until, and you get to have it for a year at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Or you lose it.
or you lose it. Yeah.
And just try not to pay the tax, and you'll figure out whether you lose it or not.
Yeah. So that would be a big thing. And so if we could pass the fair tax, we could also go back and revisit it and see if people wouldn't be interested in paying their property taxes via the fair tax.
Well, and also with anything new, I would think there are going to be some growing pains, and things will have to be tweaked. So in order for something to be tweaked, who would be doing that?
It would be the legislature.
Yeah, but the thing that they would
tweak, this whole
tweak,
thing will be based on what the legislature
the thing that they would tweak would be the rate.
Yeah,
that would be the only thing.
It's the only thing to tweak because there's nothing else to tweak.
Yeah, you can't with the fair tax. You can't pit one citizen against another.
Yeah, let's go back. There are no business to business taxes as long as the final product of a business is not a purchasable item for personal use. The retailer is where the tax is finally collected. So there are no business to business taxes in there, and the only time you get taxed is, like I say, a retail level. So all that paperwork and all that flow of tax collecting money that you were talking about earlier just kind of goes away because it's not required. The only thing that the businesses will have to do is they'll have to be open for audit to prove that they're not a taxable business. So retailer will be the only ones having to worry about this. And like I said, you go from 2.5 or so million people working in the state of Alabama paying income taxes down to 60,000 retailers. And that just gets rid of a whole big bottleneck collecting taxes.
And the retailers have to do their inventory anyway.
Yeah,
it's not an
they
additional.
they do this already as far as sales tax is concerned. It's just a matter of they may have to adjust their system a little bit to accommodate for it being a consumption tax.
Yeah, but guess what? You'll actually have more time to look over your inventory and see what you
Right.
have.
Mm-hmm.
Since they don't have all these exemptions and stuff they have to worry about, they can have one set of books that'll take care of both their business and the tax that they pay.
Right.
That's true. Let me ask you a question. This pertains to inheritance tax. And I know people who they've lost the family farm after the parents died because, somebody would have to buy everybody else out. You know what I mean? And sometimes they just don't have the money to do that. By the time they pay the taxes, it's again, I've seen so many awesome families lose the farm. What would this do to the family farm?
Well, there's as far as Alabama's concerned, there's believe it or not, there's not much in the way of inheritance tax, but it's the Fed that still have that. They still have the limit on what you can pass on before it starts getting taxed. So whatever the Feds tax, the state will tax, and if the Feds don't tax it, the state won't tax it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the inheritance tax is an income tax, and the fair tax eliminates all income taxes.
Okay, folks, we have about 2 minutes left in this segment. What would you like to tell the folks before we go?
I wanted to go back to that. There's a lot of talk about exempting tax on groceries. I wanted to bring to the fore a study that the Tax Foundation did and reported on in April, and their findings were exempting groceries from the sales tax base reduces economic efficiency without achieving any objective of enhancing tax progressivity. Mm-hmm. The poorest decile, that'd be the poorest 10% of households, experience 9% more sales tax liability with a grocery tax exemption than they would if the groceries were taxed and the general rate were reduced commensurately. In other words, just reduce the overall rate and leave the grocery tax there. And the reason is because it's a troughing. If you take the money out that you're normally getting for grocery taxes, well then the state's not going to just give that up. They're going to figure out another way to fill that trough in with the money that they're not going to get out of the grocery taxes. So they're going to end up paying more in tax because they're paying more tax for other things is the point. So.
And the other thing about grocery tax is we've lived in states that did not have a grocery tax, and not everything in the grocery store is untaxed. There are various descriptions of what is taxed, and the first time that it ever hit me was when I was buying cranberry juice. Cranberry juice in Ohio is taxed because it has a certain percentage of sugar in it. So it's so
that's the sugar industry,
right.
Taking care
So
of
when
that.
you go to the grocery store, you'll have items that are taxed and items that are untaxed, and it's not just implements or things like that. It's actual food.
Folks, we're going to have to go. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It's Chuck and Marilyn Bailey with Fair Tax, Alabama Fair Tax. We appreciate you guys being on the show today. And we appreciate you watching and listening to Afternoon Drive Home. You are awesome. Again, thank you so much for being with us today. And we'll be with you in just a few minutes with another awesome guest.